My dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, you know what's wild. The loudest message you'll ever send isn't in a long, emotional text. It's not in slamming doors or begging to be seen. It's in your silence. When you emotionally detach, not out of bitterness but out of self-respect, something shifts. You stop reacting to his inconsistency. You stop explaining your worth. And in that pause, that quiet space where you once overextended yourself, he begins to notice. Because here's the truth, when you're always available, always explaining, always there, you become background noise, but the moment you pull back with grace, not spite, that silence becomes deafening. It makes him pause. It makes him think. He starts to feel the absence of your presence, not because you yelled or chased, but because you took your power and walked quietly with it. That kind of detachment. It hits different. It's easy to confuse detachment with coldness, but they're not the same. Detachment, when it comes from self, love, is actually deeply warm. It just doesn't beg anymore. It doesn't plead for attention. It doesn't need validation. It watches. It observes. It chooses. When you detach emotionally, you stop performing for his approval. You stop making his inconsistency mean something about your value. And suddenly, the dynamic flips. Because now he's the one left wondering, why isn't she reacting? Why is she so calm? That calmness, that peace, it unsettles him more than any fight ever could. You're no longer feeding the drama. You're no longer an emotional mirror for his games. You've risen above them, and that rise creates distance. The kind of distance that makes your absence feel incredibly loud in his life. And the most beautiful thing, that emotional detachment isn't about punishing him, it's about choosing you. It's about showing up for yourself in a way you used to show up for him. It's about realizing that if he didn't see your value when you were all in, your absence might be the only thing that makes him feel what he lost. Because detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about your own peace to let it be disrupted by someone who doesn't know how to love you right. That kind of shift, it's powerful. It's soft but firm. It's not cruel. It's clarity. And men, they feel that deeply, not in the moment, not while you're still explaining, but in the quiet aftermath, when your energy is gone, when your attention is no longer a guarantee. That's when the missing begins, not when you're trying to make him miss you, but when you've finally stopped trying altogether. You know what's truly magnetic? A woman who wakes up and chooses herself every single day. Not out of ego, but out of deep self-respect. She doesn't need anyone to validate her glow, because it comes from within. She builds her joy from her passions, her routines, her growth. And without saying a word, people, especially men, notice. That kind of self-fulfillment, it's not loud, it's not flashy, it's calm, confident, and quietly powerful. When you stop trying to be the woman he wants and start becoming the woman you admire, everything shifts. You no longer chase love, you attract it, because your energy says, I'm full, I'm whole, I'm not here to be rescued, I'm here to rise. That presence, it lingers, it gets into his head, it makes him miss the version of you he never fully got to hold. Most women are taught to pour and prove, to give more, do more, be more, for someone else's attention. But the truth is, the more you give without filling your own cup, the more invisible you become. Real attraction starts when you stop performing and start living fully. When your life is rich with purpose, peace, and pleasure that isn't dependent on him, you become the kind of woman who doesn't need a man, but could choose one if he aligns with your energy. And that's where the magnetism lies. In that space where you are emotionally free, spiritually rich, and mentally grounded. That's what makes a man stop and think, why does she feel so different? Why can't I stop thinking about her? It's because he's not drawn to what you do for him. He's drawn to who you are without him. And the irony, the moment you stop trying to be chosen, you become unforgettable. The moment you prioritize your own glow, your own healing, your own dreams, that's when you step into your power. That's when you move from attraction to influence. You're no longer asking for space in his life. You're commanding it simply by being full of life yourself, and he'll feel it. In the way you walk into a room, in the way you laugh without holding back, in the way your peace doesn't waver even when he pulls away. That self-fulfillment is rare. It's raw and it's real. And once a man experiences it, truly experiences it, he'll crave it in ways he can't even explain. Because deep down, every man wants a woman who doesn't just need him, but chooses him from a place of abundance. And that choice, that energy, that's what haunts him when you're gone. That's what makes him miss you so badly. Without you even trying. There's something deeply unforgettable about a woman who walks away. Not in anger, not in chaos, but in calm, collected grace. It's the kind of exit that doesn't need a dramatic goodbye or 1,000 explanations. She just decides she's had enough, and leaves with her dignity untouched. That moment, it sticks with a man, because most people expect noise when things fall apart. They expect tears, shouting, maybe even begging. But when you give none of that, when you choose silence over performance and peace over validation, you become the memory that never fades. Your graceful exit doesn't scream, "Look at me." It whispers, "You'll feel this when I'm gone," and he does. Not right away, maybe, but eventually, he replays it. He wonders why it hurts more that you didn't try harder to stay, and the answer is simple. You respected yourself more than the relationship. That's a lesson. And a loss. It takes strength to leave quietly, to gather your broken pieces without asking someone to notice, to walk away not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself more. Grace doesn't look like revenge. It looks like peace. It looks like knowing your worth even when someone else couldn't see it. And that kind of exit, it creates a storm inside him because there's no mess to clean up, no angry text to delete, no final conversation to twist, just you gone and the memory of the woman who didn't break down in front of him but broke away from him, with strength, with softness, with soul. That haunts him more than any fight ever could, because when someone doesn't get closure, they start looking for meaning, and that graceful goodbye, it becomes the story he keeps revisiting, wondering if he could have done more to make you stay. And maybe he could have, but by the time he realizes it, you've already built a life beyond him. That's the power of the graceful exit. It doesn't beg to be remembered, yet it always is. It's not a performance. It's not strategy. It's truth. It's you finally honoring yourself enough to leave the room with your head high and your heart healing. And he remembers that, not because you tried to be unforgettable, but because you were. He'll remember the way your energy shifted, the way your silence replaced your explanations, the way your absence filled the space louder than your presence ever did. And most of all, he'll remember that he lost someone who never needed to prove anything. You just walked, and in doing so, you left the kind of impression that doesn't fade, because grace isn't forgettable, it's eternal.